And you're live here on your JoyNews channel here on Multi TV. We're also live on DSTV, channel 421 and GoTV 144. You have been watching the weekly press briefing from the Information Ministry on Ghana's situation as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Let me run by you some of the major issues that have come up this morning. We know that our case count has gone up by 183. We have 183 new cases, bringing to a total of 5,918. The recoveries still stand at 1,754. The death rate has gone up. We have 2 more deaths. Previously, it stood at 29. 2 more cases of death also recorded. And we know that in the Ashanti region, Obuasi is more or less an epicenter as far as this is concerned, holding about 70 to 80% of the cases in the region. We are told that a lot of measures have been put in place to ensure that the situation is brought under control. A male ward at the Obuasi hospital is being converted to a treatment center. Also, a 100-bed facility has been identified to help with isolation and treatment going forward. The situation is as it is because of the population of the district, and we know that the other districts around Obuasi are also teaming up to help with the mass testing and with public education as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Then in Tema, we also know that there's been a situation where somebody was infected at a fish factory and ended up spreading the disease after contact tracing and some testing, enhanced testing. A total of 695 people tested positive for COVID-19. Now, after some days and weeks of treatment, we are being told that 624 of that figure have tested negative for the first time. Remember that you need to test negative twice to be cleared as recovered, and so the officials are hoping that once the second test is done, subsequently they will test negative, and then they can be cleared as recovered. The factory, meanwhile, is ready, and all protocol have been put in place to ensure that they resume operations. And so that is the latest from the Information Ministry this morning. We also heard from the Energy Minister, who has been speaking about the energy relief, as announced by President Akufo-Addo. And we'll be getting an update on that. Well, he says that the Energy Ministry has paid all its debts to the ECG. And in fact, there's some credits that government has with the power distributor, 500 million cedis worth of credit with the ECG, enough to pay the bills of government up till May. And so government is taking this very seriously to make sure that it cushions Ghanaians during this period. In our headlines this morning here on News Desk. Hello again, my name is Ernest Minu. Let's settle for the details now. 3 people, including the driver of the district chief executive for Amansia South District in the Ashanti region, have been shot dead in a suspected armed robbery attack. The deceased, who received multiple gunshot wounds, were shot at different locations at Manso Dadiase near Datano in the Amansia South District when the group of armed men stormed the community. Now, the armed men are said to have blocked the main road leading to the town in the wake of the attack, while shooting indiscriminately at anyone they see at sight, and that's about 7 p.m. Monday. My colleague Ohimin Teya is on this beat, and he joins us live with details. Ohimin, give us an idea of the exact location this incident happened.
Thank you, Ernest. The community Manso, Dadiase, and Datano are in the Amansia South District of the Ashanti region. It used to be part of the then Amansia West District, but a few years ago, this was a new district was carved out of the old Amansia West District. So it's a new district, and the resources there, I would say, is not enough for the running of the district, and that is how come the district chief executive, William Asante Bediakon, decided to release his vehicle to support the ongoing COVID-19 education by the district health directorate. And the driver, his driver, we are told, identified only as Osei, was transporting the officials to nearby Manso Tunnel for education. And upon their return to Manso Edubia, that is where the incident happened.
Okay, so this is around what time of the day?
That was yesterday around 7 p.m.
Okay. You have been speaking with the police. What have they been telling you?
For police, they say it is too early to give information or details of this particular incident. What we do know is that the regional crime officer, ACP Felix Cosmos, is leading a team of police investigators from the Ashanti Regional Criminal Investigations Department and with some crime scene experts to also investigate the matter. So currently we are on our way to Manso Dadiase, where the police team has already taken a lead.
So you say you're on your way to Manso Dadiase, but already I'm sure you've been speaking with people on the ground. Do we know exactly where this happened, where the shooting incident happened?
The shooting incident happened at the Manso Dadiase community, and we are told that some of the people who were shot in the community itself.
Okay.
And the DC's driver and his team, as at the time of the shooting, had just passed the Manso Dadiase community. They were on their way to Manso Edubiase, and when the incident happened. So it's not that they only attacked members of the public on the way, but they moved into the community where they also robbed people of their money and personal belongings. That is the information we picked from the ground. Police, the regional police headquarters say they wouldn't want to grant any interview until they get to the community, which is a bit far from Ashanti Region, before they are able to give details of this particular incident, whether indeed the people had gone there to rob, or maybe they had any other motive behind the yesterday's incident.
I mean, thank you very much. I know that you are moving to the crime scene. We'll get back to you once we have an update on the situation there. Thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Let's bring you some more stories on COVID-19. The Bono East region, which is currently one of the 3 regions with no cases of COVID-19, is embarking on enhanced testing of groups at higher risk of being infected with the virus. This, according to the Regional Health Director, is to ensure that the region remains COVID-19 free. He disclosed this to JoyNews. JoyNews is announced a bit after the Directorate received a cash donation of 20,000 Ghana cedis to complement government efforts in the fight against the pandemic. There's more in the following report.
The Bono Ahafo Catholic Cooperative Society for Development, also known as BACSOD, has, as part of its corporate social responsibility, donated a sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis to help the Bono East region's efforts to fight the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Presenting the sum in check to the regional health management team, General Manager of BACSOD, Madame Alice Kupwo, indicated that the move is to complement government's efforts in ensuring that the region wins the COVID-19 battle. Concerning COVID-19 that we are talking about, we've seen it as one of our areas, one of our objectives, so that if it is a sickness which is actually destroying the lives of people, affecting government coffers, people are unable to work, then it is a concern for us to see what we can also do to support the government. So at the end of the day, we think that there is the need for us to contribute something small to complement what the government is doing, so that the government can actually reach out to a number of people with regards to testing and even getting some PPEs to support the whole process. The region, which is one of 3 yet to record a case in the country, is embarking on enhanced testing of groups who are at higher risk of being infected with the virus. Regional Health Director Dr. Fred Adumako Boateng disclosed this to JoyNews.
If you look at Bono East, for instance, we were classified as very low risk because there was no case. And because there was low risk, no case, we have to do what we call enhanced testing. The idea is that, look, if you look at COVID-19, some people are at a higher risk. they are very likely to get the COVID-19. And who are they? I mean, people who are stationed at a place, like the food vendors. They are always there. A lot of people come to them, like maybe cargo drivers, commercial drivers. You know, almost they are taking a lot of people. So if you are looking at our risk people, they are likely, if there is a disease in Bono East, they are likely. So this is the discussion and the thinking that we are doing, that look, can we look at some of them and then really test?
Dr. Adumako also indicated that the donation is timely as the region is being faced with financial restraints, especially in transporting suspected samples to the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research.
If you look at the testing sites that we don't have some in Bono East currently as we are speaking. So if you take the sample, we have to transport it to her, to KCCR, to Noguchi, to UHAS. You need fuel. And we know that these things were not budgeted for. They came as an emergency. Even when we are moving from one place to another to take sample, you need fuel, you see, and these were not plantains. So this will really help us in addressing some of these logistics issues, money here and there, transportation here and there.
On his part, Deputy Bono East Regional Minister and Member of Parliament for Techiman North Constituency, Honorable Martin Otijako, called on the corporate world to extend support to the regional health team in order to complement efforts being implemented by government.
I think it will go a long way to help us in fighting the COVID-19. Other organizations, social corporates have contributed to this fight, and we still ask that people should come in support so that we can fight the COVID-19. Being financial, material, or any other form, we are ready to receive it so far as we can use it to fight the COVID-19. We welcome it.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Techiman.
And you should watch out for that documentary right here on Joy News. Let's take you live to the Ashanti region now, where the disinfection exercise is ongoing for the police service. Erastus Asaridonko is at the Rich Police Station and he joins us live. Erastus, has the exercise started already?
The exercise started about 30 minutes ago, and it started at the Central Police Headquarters. And so this morning we had a launch of the exercise at the Central Police Headquarters before we moved out. And the regional minister was there, and he has been defending and justifying the enforcement of nose masks by the police. And he says they're going to use force where necessary to ensure that people conform and wear the face masks wherever. So if you are arrested without wearing the nose masks, it's possible that you'll be made to weed or do communal work along the streets. Now, the exercise started after the launch at the Central Police Headquarters, where officers are disinfecting the various cells, the various offices, including the various commanders' offices as well. So they are doing two things. They are fumigating the barracks of the police stations. They are also disinfecting the various cells and police offices against COVID-19. We are doing over 150 police stations and barracks across Ashanti Region. And so we have moved from Central Police Headquarters, and we are currently here at the Ridge Police Station, and we are expecting the team to come any moment to start the disinfection here. So I'll move inside and try to speak with the men in here to find out how prepared they are for this particular exercise this morning. So when we enter, this is where they are going to do the disinfection. They are going to go through the various offices, spray every table, every desk, every surface, and disinfect all surfaces against COVID-19. So let me enter the station officer's office, try to get some information as to how prepared. All right, so they are all prepared and they are waiting for the team to come. And when they come in, this is the area that they're going to disinfect. They have a female cell here. They are going to also disinfect the place as well against COVID-19. Then they are going to move to the various barracks and do the fumigation exercise against pests and rodents as well. So that is how the exercise is going to be like. This morning, we have various teams that are going to other police stations scattered across the length and breadth of the region. So we have teams going to Zongo Police Station. We have other teams going to Adiabeba and other areas within the districts of Ashanti Region, 150 in all. So that is what is going to happen now with the disinfection exercise.
A huge number and a good move, but I'm wondering what is going to happen to those who are behind bars, to the officers. What is the arrangement like to make sure that they actually work throughout the day? And have you been given an indication by those doing the disinfection when they can move back into their offices?
So this morning, when the deputy police regional commander spoke to the men and women, he was saying that they should give full support to the disinfection team. So as and when the team comes to your office, you are supposed to vacate the office and allow them a full space to be able to do their job. But in answer to your question, you can see the female cell here. And currently we do not have any inmate in here. As you can see, it's empty. So they have been preparing ahead of the disinfection exercise. They have evacuated the inmates for the disinfection team to come. And so they are fully prepared, waiting for the team to come in, do the disinfection exercise. I understand many of them have been switched to other areas to allow the disinfection team to be able to do their job. So that is what is going to happen. That is what is happening in all the other police stations.
Can they get back to their offices, for instance? I know they're using chemicals, and these chemicals can be somewhat dangerous. So how soon can they return to their offices after the disinfection?
Well, we asked the same question. We put the same question to Zoom Lion, and they told us that the chemical they are using is diluted. It's not. It doesn't take long for it to dry up, and so after the disinfection exercise, in a matter of an hour, they can come back to do their normal duties. And so the normal working hours will be disrupted for some time, close to about an hour, but then they can come back and resume duties after an hour when the chemical has dried up on the surfaces.
For 150 police stations that will be disinfected, are they all going to be done today, or there's actually a plan to be done over a period, a number of days?
So, Ernest, they are giving themselves 5 days to do that particular job. And so today they are covering as much as they can. The exercise is expected to continue from tomorrow and the next day for 5 days, and they are expected to finish within 5 days. So as we speak, there are teams that are doing other districts, other municipalities, other police stations within the Ashanti region. And so it's expected that by 5 days, they would have completed the entire task.
Erastus, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on what's happening in the Ashanti region. As far as the disinfection exercise is concerned, we know that 150 stations, police stations, will be disinfected, and Erastus will be on that beat and will keep us updated. Let's do something on education and COVID. 3 teacher unions are resisting plans by the Ghana Education Service to open school in June. The Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers wrote to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Opoku Amankwa, warning that there will be poor patronage of classes should government go ahead to reopen schools without conferring with parents and teachers on the way forward. Let's go to the phone lines now. We're joined by the president of NAGAT, Angel Kabonu. Mr. Kabonu, on what basis is the teacher unions, are these unions saying that, there'll be poor patronage? Is that what parents are telling you, that they are not willing to let their wards go back to school?
We did not say that there will be poor patronage. We are calling on government to resist attempts by certain faceless people to compel it to open the schools, and that the current situation is such that it will be in the interest of parents, students, and teachers if the schools remain closed. That was the import of our statement.
So, I just want to quote portions of the statement you issued, and that letter you sent to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. The very last point says that majority of teachers and students will have to commute from their place of abode to schools, hence increasing the risk of infection of COVID-19. Then it says the pre-tertiary education unions would not ascribe to the reopening of schools should the President of the Republic decide not to extend the 31st May 2020 deadline and order the reopening of schools. We cannot expose our teachers and students to the COVID-19 pandemic with its attendant sorrows and gnashing of teeth. But before that, you also said that the items for observation of the prescribed schools, that is cleaning your hands, washing your hands at the running water, and all of that, the sanitizers are not available. The Ghana Education Service was asking for your input. Are these recommendations you are making to them, or you are saying that you are simply not ready to get schools reopened?
Our most useful and practical input is calling on the Ghana Education Service and the government at large not to reopen the schools based on the statistics that are available with regards to COVID-19.
You talk about some faceless people trying to get government to compel government, those are the words you use, to reopen schools. What is your suspicion?
Well, I think that these people may have their parochial interest.
Who are these people?
Well, that is why they are faceless. So I will not be able to
Mr. Kabonu, you must know that some people are pushing this move to make such a comment in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. From where I sit,
yes,
I know, and I even know those people and the reason for which they are making this. But I don't think that it is appropriate to mention their names as of now.
Why do you think they are pushing for schools to reopen then?
Well, because of their personal and parochial interest in the whole issue.
Which
and
is?
For us as union, we are looking at the issue of life of the students and life of teachers.
Mr. Kabonu, are you referring to the private schools, the leaders of the private schools?
I have not mentioned any name.
Because in this conversation, they are the most affected, and especially for the thousands of teachers they employ who are not receiving salaries, some of whom have been laid off. And so for them, they are earnestly looking forward to schools reopening so they can put in place measures to ensure that the school environment is safe for the pupils.
No, I have not mentioned their name.
So Mr. Kabonu, when do you expect that government would take such a move?
Well, for us, statistics and the science, the scientific situation should guide the nation. When the schools were being closed, we had a certain number of infected people. But today, as we speak, the numbers has gone beyond 5,918 or so. And the death is also gone beyond, I think, 32 or so. The level of infection is horizontal infection and no longer vertical infection. What that means is that we are infecting ourselves in the country as at now. Can you imagine bringing students to Presbyterian Boys Secondary School or Prempeh College or Tamale Secondary School? For one student who is infected to be among the total number of students, what type of pandemic we will now be grappling with?
So the WHO has told us that this will be with us for a long time. The health minister says we must learn to live with this. Shouldn't we be looking at measures to put in place to get schools back already?
Well, if that is what WHO is saying and it is based on fact, then we also have to change our modus operandi. For example, if it's going to be with us for a long time, like malaria has been with us for a long time, like typhoid has been with us for a long time, like hepatitis B has been with us for a long time, are you going to continue quarantining people for a long time? Because if that statement is true, the next year by this time we should be expecting over 500,000 people under quarantine. Which country can be able to quarantine people 500,000? You sure we can do that?
Should the president decide to lift the ban to ask schools to reopen, are you teachers ready?
How can you be ready when your life is at stake? You mean we should be ready and go and die?
If government decides to give you protective gears.
But your station this morning interviewed a medical doctor from Tamale Teaching Hospital who was in protective gear, got infected by a coronavirus patient, and was flown from Tamale to Kolebu ICU unit.
Yes, Mr. Kabanu, but...
And she is a trained medical practitioner. I am not a trained medical practitioner. Even she, though she is a trained medical practitioner, got infected and was flown from Tamale to Kolebu ICU for treatment. She indicated this morning on Joy FM that even while she was in intensive care, the situation was so bad that she started writing her last statements to her family. You mean teachers will be prepared and ready to handle a situation like that, though they are not medically trained?
You're going to have the sanitizers, for instance. You're going to have water. You're going to... what if the GS, for instance, decides that together with the health ministry, they're going to run testing in the various schools to be sure that those who are positive are isolated, and then there'll be some social distancing protocols observed in the classroom? Wouldn't that work?
What then will be the educational effect of those who have been isolated? You say people should come to school and learn, and then you realize that you have started isolating them because they get infected. What then will be the use of the asking them to return to school when eventually those who get infected will be isolated?
Well, you don't expect a huge number of people to be infected, and you
never know. One factory in Tema, fish processing factory, got over 500 people infected by one person.
So, Mr. Kabanu, assuming that this does not go as soon as possible, and indeed we are being told to learn to live with it, when do you expect that schools would resume?
That's what I'm saying, that they should quickly define properly what they mean by we should live with it. If we are going to live with it like the way we are living with malaria, typhoid, and hepatitis B, that like the United States of America, like in... you just walk into a health facility and ask for treatment. If we are living with it in that manner, and they know that they have once we are living with it, then we should also have treatment needs. Then it becomes a normal disease added to the numerous diseases that we have in this country. Then, but if that situation does not change based on science, how do you say that the numbers are going to go up? We are going to live with it. For example, the question you asked, that when people are found to be infected, they will be isolated. And I asked you, when you isolate 200 students, why have you asked them to come to school?
200 out of thousands of students.
So that is significantly huge. That is significantly huge. Because one person in Tema infected 500 people.
Would you want to continue with the e-learning program? What will be your assessment of that?
Well, my assessment of the e-learning program is that in as much as it has come to fill the gap somehow, have not been very effective because we do not have an IT fundamentals in this country. The fundamentals for technology in teaching in this country is very, very weak because we have never anticipated the situation we find ourselves and maybe the way we do things. For example, you and I know that before COVID-19, you cannot even take a laptop to school, an iPod to school, or a phone to school. So, I mean, and then again, how many people, even in Accra, how many children do have some of these gadgets at home to be able to access e-learning?
And so, Mr. Kabonu, are you meeting with the Ghana Education Service? Are you thinking around this? Are you willing to be a part of proffering solutions to help education in Ghana?
Well, why not? You and I have just spoken for about some 5 to 6 minutes now, and I am preferring my views to you. The same way, tomorrow there's a meeting between us and the Ghana Education Service. Let everybody know that we are talking first and foremost the preservation of life. That is the fundamental basis of what we are saying, the preservation of life for teachers and for students. How can you talk about education delivery when there is no life?
Mr. Kabonu, thank you very much for your time here on News Desk. And you heard that the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, they are not really excited about moves by government to get schools reopened after May 31. Let's see how it goes after their meeting with the Ghana Education Service. Right now, let me take you to Parliament. Parliament is resuming sitting this morning following a recall to look at some pressing matters. My colleague Joseph Opulgato joins me live on the line. Joseph, what is happening in the House this morning? Joseph, if you can hear me, what should we expect this morning in Parliament?
If you can hear me, sitting has actually begun. We've had the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, as well as the minority and majority leaders, Chairman Sabuntu and Haruna Idrisu, deliver what is described as the welcome addresses. And following their break and the beginning of the second meeting of the fourth session of Parliament, a number of issues have come up. Professor Michael Quay has directed that the medical director in Parliament takes the necessary steps to ensure all members of Parliament as well as staff of the House are tested for COVID-19. He disclosed that directive a while ago and said that the medical director is beginning the processes with the necessary institutions to ensure that this testing is concerned so that MPs and their staff know their status when it comes to COVID-19 as a way to prevent a possible spread. He again said that the necessary measures will be put in place to protect MPs. You know, some MPs have called for the decision to recall the House virtually reversed, including the minority spokesperson on health, because he doesn't understand why 275 people should be sitting over non-urgent business at a time that the nation is dealing with COVID-19. But the Speaker says necessary measures will be put in place in order to ensure that MPs are safe, except that the specifics of that are things that he did not disclose. But he cautioned MPs that even as they go about their duties in the chamber, they should ensure adequate social distancing so they don't send the wrong signal and the wrong example to ordinary members of the public. So he delivered all of that in his welcome address. The minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, contributed to the conversation. He demanded that there should be more strict accountability mechanisms when it comes to how government is spending the various sums Parliament has approved for the fight against COVID-19, including about $100 million that's coming from the World Bank, and also issues having to do with the $1 billion that's coming from the IMF and other institutions. He says the fact that there is COVID-19 doesn't mean accountability mechanisms should be thrown to the dogs, and that those steps should actually be rolled out as soon as possible so there is efficient use of the amount. Again, Haruna Idrisu has been calling for the summoning of the Electoral Commission boss to the House to come brief MPs on the roadmap for the upcoming election, the 2020 elections. He says it's out of place that there isn't a clear plan on the part of the EC as far as processes for that poll is concerned. And in his words, this is a democracy, and the democracy that the nation has will continue running even whether there is COVID-19 or there isn't. So he wants the EC boss summoned as well. There have been comments on that as well from Osei Chairman Sabonsu, who is the majority leader, indicating that government, and for that matter Parliament, will be providing the executive the necessary support as far as the processes to deal with the COVID-19 are concerned. And he made the point that when it comes to helping and supporting the EC in planning the processes going into the 2020 elections, that as well is something that the Parliament of Ghana will be doing. And so once those addresses were done, the main sitting for the day began earnestly, and Chairman Sabonsu was back on the floor laying out what is described as the business statement and spelling the agenda on what the House will be doing in the first week as they resume from their break. And today they are commencing the second meeting of the fourth session of the 7th Parliament. And so, they start right from late January up until about a month ago, which was actually the first meeting, and they took a break and they are back for the second meeting. This meeting will run for the next 3 months, after which they will take their final break for the year and return sometime in August to complete their final meeting for the year. So the processes have begun in Parliament, honestly.
A lot happening there, Joseph, but because some were not happy with the recall, I don't know if it's reflected in the numbers on the floor.
As we speak, I tried doing a count of the number of MPs on the floor. There are less than 100 of them out of the 275 who are expected in the House. But this is virtually normal. On a very regular day, you don't see the House getting filled in terms of the numbers. So we're seeing the numbers of MPs showing up like it is on usual days, less than 100 of them, even as the business of the House commences. The expectation is that as the day progresses and in the week ahead, more of them will be showing up in order to deliberate on businesses. For this particular meeting, which is running for the next 10 to 12 weeks, a number of items are on the agenda. The controversial public universities bill, which we know that the vice chancellors and other educationists have kicked against and is being worked on at the level of the Education Committee, will be coming to the floor in order for the necessary debate and approval. As well, the House has been considering the pre-tertiary education bill, which is seeking to amalgamate all the various bodies that are supervising various educational activities at the lower level below the tertiary level.
Joseph, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on what is happening in Parliament. A lot there, and we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins.